Hello and welcome back to this damn full idealistic crusade. In this video, I'd like to discuss the recent Arrow Video reissue of their astounding Dollars Trilogy restorations in a complete box set being marketed under the title The Dollars Trilogy, and once again sees the three films being put together in a nice slip box design, as we've seen on past format releases where they've taken the individual versions and either condensed them into a box set with uniform packaging as we see here, or just put the individual releases in a slip box like the original MGM DVD version. Now, what's important about this release is that, of course, the limited editions had all sold out pretty quickly, and the standard editions, while having the same outstanding discs, unfortunately lost out on the amazing booklets for each release, in addition to the lovely limited hardcase packaging, extra artwork, and poster. Worst of all was that The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly lost the amazing fourth disc with the Sad Hill Unearthed documentary and its supplements, simply because that was the one thing they had to do as a concession to the standard release. So the standard releases were otherwise the same amazing discs with the all-important restorations and content on them in terms of all the supplements, but I know a lot of fans were really sad that they may have missed out on the limited editions because they pretty much sold out immediately. So now with the new box set of the whole trilogy, we have all of the same amazing discs plus the fourth GBU disc, so all 8 discs are in this set, plus there is beautiful new exclusive artwork for the front cover, bringing all 3 films together. This is your chance to get another piece of incredible Dollars Trilogy artwork by the late, great Tony Stella, who unfortunately just recently passed away around the time of this box set's release. So this is actually some of his last work, and he had been just doing one amazing piece of art after another for various covers for different physical media releases and different labels. So he will be unbelievably missed, as he really was doing, I think, the best poster artwork of anyone working today. So you may be asking if there are any differences between the original individual limited edition releases of the 3 films and the new box set in terms of what's included, is there anything missing, and how do the original packages compare to the condensed box set version. So that's what I'm going to briefly go over here so people can decide if they want to get the box set in addition to the originals if they have them, or if you want to upgrade to the box set if you have the standard versions, or if you don't have any, you may want to get the box set versus the individual standard editions. Now, firstly, it should always be remembered that Arrow typically does not do dual format releases, so you'll have to choose whether you want the 4K UHD set with supplemental feature Blu-rays and the all Blu-ray set. And do keep in mind that the Blu-rays are all region B locked, so even if you get the UHD set, which those discs are region free, the supplemental discs will be region locked Blu-rays, so you'll need a region free player to be able to play those. This is not something Arrow just decided to do. It is, of course, due to the licensing, as they don't have the rights to the films in the US market, so this is still a region B set that you're having to import. So this is the new set. We have a beautiful new piece of unique Tony Stella artwork that shows 3 versions of the Man with No Name, and so it's ostensibly representing an image from each of the 3 films, and that's a really cool idea to go with. Plus, we've got the same sort of aesthetic and usage of red and off yellow orange to match all the other artwork, so it remains consistent. And this also fits beautifully with the spine, where we have all of the original titles in their original font in yellow, the Dollars Trilogy title still in white with the Arrow logo on the top, and then the wonderful central image of 3 representative characters from each film that formed the spines when linked of the 3 individual releases is now, of course, obviously brought together. And so here they are for comparison, the 3 individual releases that formed a connective image when placed next to each other, and then the condensed single image version for the box set. The set is a slip box with the side open with the 3 films in their cases with all their discs and reversible artwork, plus the 3 reversible folded posters, and a new book that brings together elements for all 3 to make a special Dollars Trilogy book. This is basically distilled from the 3 individual books from the earlier releases, and I say distilled for a good reason, and I'll get to that when I cover the book. but the side is open, and then the rear has the information J card attached. But here you can see the basic description, and then the exhaustive amount of supplements is condensed down to a single page, so you can see just how unbelievably stuffed this box set is, as it contains everything found on the discs of all 3 individual releases. Take the J card off and you have more incredible Tony Stella artwork from the 3 individual releases that's now been brought together as a single collage, and again it's printed with this wonderful effect. Now, because this is a hard case box, the way Arrow prints these, it has a sort of textured, almost matte finish to it. So that's why the artwork looks this particular way, simply because that's how it prints onto this style of case. And this is exactly what we saw on the actual hard cases of the individual sets versus the interior artwork and the outer slipcover. So, of course, the box set does not have the slipcover, nor does it have the external Tony Stella poster artworks that were done for those slipcovers. So, basically, you trade these images for the box set specific image of Tony Stella artwork. Now, as I said, the discs themselves are exactly the same, as are the cases with the artwork and reversible artwork. So this has all 8 discs. So that means, of course, 2 discs for a fistful of dollars, 2 discs for a few dollars more, and all 4 discs of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. So this has the limited edition exclusive 4th disc that most people missed out on. And as I went over in my review, that's a fantastic documentary, beautifully encoded and also packed with supplements of its own. So it's really essential to have as a fan of the film. And then, of course, we have the posters and the book. But as you can see here, everything is packed in here rather tightly. And so obviously that means it doesn't slip around when you're moving the box, but it also means that you've got to be very careful getting things in and out. And that seems to have already been an issue in terms of the condition of everything. Now, when I received this, the box that had been shipped in had been kicked around a little bit, but everything was fine until you note that there's definitely a bit of wear, as here on the bottom corner edge there's a crack that runs along, and it also looks like at some point the bottom corner was a little bit smushed. And then there's also a similar little crack going along the top corner, so along the spine. And also there's a little tiny dip where the bottom corner here has been kind of smushed in. Nothing terribly major, but it is something to note that the actual box set seems to maybe get a few little dings and wear on the edges. And I have to say that part of that may be because it is so tight. Now, as you can see, there's no real space between anything. And so everything is really packed in here. And to get stuff out, I mean, you really have to take everything out. And you kind of have to use gravity to just very carefully go like this. It's gotten a little easier since I got it, because the first time you try to get them out, they're pretty much stuck in there. So you just want to be really careful with these. But unfortunately, this means that you may run into issues with the book, because my copy has a little bit of damage where, and I think this is simply where it was when it was made at the factory and it was inserted into the box, because the box is so tight. That means it's very easy to catch the pages, and because that outside corner had been hit or crumpled at some point, that did unfortunately hit the bottom corner of the pages there. It's nothing terribly major. I'm not terribly upset about it because I already have the original releases, but I do think a lot of this is simply due to how tightly packed the box dimensions are. And this is actually something that was not an issue on the individual releases, because they had a little bit more wiggle room, essentially. They had a little bit more space, and of course, less things were being put into that particular box. I know this is something that a lot of collectors won't be thrilled with, so that's why I point it out. But I will say that anyone who gets this set, just be a little careful getting things in and out, because things are rather tightly allotted in this particular box. Just for comparison's sake, here is the limited edition standalone release of A Fistful of Dollars, and once you take the slipcover off, you see everything in here is nicely arranged, and also it's not tight. So, I mean, it's not over tight. Everything has enough room to where you can easily get things in and out without risk of damaging them. So to move on to the discs themselves, these are exactly the same as what was found in the limited edition sets. So we have the alternative Tony Stella new poster artwork, complete with original Italian title as well, the spine with matching title font, the rear with exhaustive supplements list, the reversible art, which uses the 1967 United Artists US 1 sheet, matching spine and matching rear cover, and then the UHD feature disc with supplements, plus the Region B locked Blu-ray of supplements. The same goes for a few dollars more, with the beautiful Tony Stella poster as the artwork, plus Italian title, matching spine, matching rear with supplements, reversible artwork with the United Artists one-sheet poster, matching spine, and matching rear cover. And then inside we have the UHD feature disc, plus the Region B locked special features Blu-ray. And then we have The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly with Tony Stella poster artwork and the Italian title, matching spine, matching rear cover, followed by the reversible artwork with the original United Artists US one-sheet poster artwork, matching spine, and matching rear cover with supplements. Inside for disc 1, we have the International Cut UHD, which is, of course, the 161-minute version of the film that was the primary version seen worldwide for many decades. For disc 2, we have the UHD of the extended cuts of the film based on the original Italian release versions. Then for disc 3, we have the absolutely loaded supplemental features Blu-ray, which is Region B locked. And then the all-important disc 4, the Sad Hill Unearthed documentary and extras, which is also Region B locked. And again, this is the disc that was removed for the standard edition. So this is the one that everybody really wanted who missed out on the limited edition. And again, let me just say, this is such a wonderful documentary and has such wonderful extras that you really do need it in your Sergio Leone collection. We have these same mini poster replicas that are fold out. So you get the Tony Stella artwork on one side, and you get the reproduction of the vintage art on the other. So here's the UA 1 sheet of A Fistful of Dollars. Here is the poster for a few dollars more with the beautiful Tony Stella artwork, reversible with the original UA US 1 sheet. And then we have the beautiful Tony Stella artwork for The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. So here is the fold-out poster, and then reversible with the original United Artists US American 1 sheet. Just a quick note before I get into the book, anyone who's ever handled one of these Arrow box sets, regardless if it's Blu-ray or UHD, or if you've seen one of my reviews where I talk about this, they use particular types of paper and ink, it seems, that does cause a particular odor or smell. It used to be very, very prevalent. I don't know exactly how to describe it other than just a particular paper or ink smell, almost like very strong cardboard as a smell, if you will. It's much less prevalent than it used to be, but you still will have trace amounts of it in various releases. There's a little bit on the standalone limited editions, and you get a little bit of that here, particularly when you're handling the paper materials and especially the book itself. So just be aware of that if that's a factor for you and something that bugs you. It is something that is typically found in Arrow sets simply due to the materials used. It's nothing bad. It's just something that I do like to point out. And thankfully their releases now are nowhere near as smelly as this used to be. Again, the release of Barbarella was so strong that as soon as I started opening the plastic, the smell would knock you down. So it's just something I like to point out. So now we come to the Dollars Trilogy book. So this is basically taken from the 3 standalone books in the original limited editions and given the new unique box set artwork. And of course, the spine also now says the Dollars Trilogy. The rear now has the title and credits for each of the 3 films on one page, whereas the original books had the original title, credits, and the tagline from one of the marketing campaigns. Inside, you find some of the same wonderful essays and images from the original books, And there's a reason why I say the word some. Now, as you can see here, this is basically about an 80-page book. It is the same content as what was in the previous books, but it's actually a condensed version because unfortunately, and I guess due to budgetary and size constraints, the trilogy book seen here drops 2 essays from each of the original books. It basically cuts the number of essays in half from those. So again, I think that was really due probably to budgetary and time constraints. So it's really the one thing outside of the packaging differences that you do lose from the original limited editions. You unfortunately lose 2 essays from each of the original books. You still get the same great material for the other essays and the same wonderful images, the same printing. I mean, it's basically exactly the same. It's just a condensed version of the 3 original books that, when brought together, are substantially longer. So this is the original book On a Fistful of Dollars from the limited standalone version, and of course it has the Tony Stella artwork, but when you open it, this is where you can see the other 2 essays. So this loses the 2 essays, A Shot in the Arm for the Western and The Sound of a New Era. And of course, this is the rear of the Fistful book. For a few dollars more, had the matching design here on the original book. And then you open to see the 2 essays that are not in the trilogy version, which are Games Without Frontiers and A Fabric of Substance. So these books were each about 60 pages, and they've been condensed for the trilogy version by unfortunately removing 2 of the original essays. And of course, here's the original book's rear cover. Here's the original book for GBU, again with Tony Stella artwork. And the 2 essays that are lost are The Economics of Survival and Flash Images, the eternally cool Western style of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And of course, here is the original book's rear cover. So here on the trilogy version, again, that's what you're looking at. You're looking at the loss of half of the essays from the original books for this single condensed volume. So this is really, I think, the one concession they had to make. Otherwise, everything is exactly the same, and the same beautiful quality, the same lovely layout, the same crucial list of the cast and crew and credits for each film at the start that even go in to the extras and the actual credits of the dubbing sessions. We get half of the essays from the original books in the same wonderful quality. Again, it looks identical to those in layout, design, and printing. Crucially, it retains the most important of all the essays, which is James Flowers' About the Versions on The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which goes into the minutiae of what is known about the release versions and the versions in the years since, and also gives greater detail and context to just how intricate the research process was in the restoration, as it was the most difficult and challenging of all 3 films to deal with. And then we close with the About the Presentations and credits for each of the 3 films. And then we close with the production credits and the special thanks section. And if you look close in the thanks section, you'll notice that there's a certain polo shirt wearing film geek in there. Now, just for quick reference, here's all 4 books together. You can see they're the same size, same design, but obviously the trilogy book is much smaller. It's basically about 80 pages, whereas all 3 of the individual ones put together is about 180 pages. So obviously there had to be some concessions to condense everything down to the box set size, and also for budgetary reasons. So this was the only unfortunate casualty of the trilogy box versus the original standalone releases. And again, when you're taking everything in and out of the box, just be very careful because it is so tight. So I've found that the best thing to do is just take everything out at once and try to put it back at once. Or just start with the paper materials because they're the most fragile, obviously, and it's much easier to get the plastic cases in and out versus the more fragile paper materials. So those go in first, and then you can just do the cases so that way you keep the paper materials safe. So everything seems fine, but you try to put the last disc in here and it is already a little bit tight. Just, I don't know how well it translates, but you just want to be really careful because this set is really, really tight when you've got everything in here. So you see I'm having to put some real pressure on this. And then once everything's in here, it's not coming out again. So I think it's best to have the paper materials in first and then do the plastic cases. And as I said, when you want to take something out, it's best to just take everything out in one piece, and that way you keep everything as good as you can. So my only concern with the packaging is just how tight the box dimensions are, and also how that can apparently cause some issues in manufacturing and shipping. It's not obviously a giant thing, it doesn't detract from your enjoyment of the releases and the amazing discs, but it is something to note with the packaging, just how tight the dimensions are. So really, I think the new Trilogy box set version is for those who haven't picked up any version of the releases so far, as these are really the definitive versions of the films that have ever existed, not just in the realm of physical media, but in the realm of virtually every iteration that has had a flaw or issue. And before this point, no one has ever put in this level of work, research, and effort to try and fix decades-old problems. Basically, if you own or want to own these films and you do not have any version of the Arrow releases, then you just need to get this box set, because these are as definitive as they can be, and they so completely obliterate every release that has come beforehand that nothing compares. It is that level of a night and day difference. But the box set, for those who already have the limited editions, is really not something you need unless you specifically wanted a trilogy box in the first place and you just want a single box on yourself as opposed to the original 3 sets. The box set is really geared more towards people who haven't gotten the releases yet, or the ones who only were able to get the standard editions. The most important thing is that this brings the 4th GBU disc with the Sad Hill Unearthed documentary into circulation again. That's the one thing that people missed out on who didn't get the limited edition, and that was the quickest to sell out of the original 3. So that, I think, will be the deciding factor for most people if they want to upgrade to the box set version or not, versus just having the standard editions. I will say, if you're a fan of the film, you will certainly get your money's worth from that amazing 4th disc, as it also has great extras of its own. Plus, you also get the really lovely, unique Tony Stella artwork that is exclusive to the box set cover, but you also lose out on the original slipcover artwork of the original limited editions. But if you missed out on those and you just have the standard editions, well, you don't have those anyway, so you're not really missing out on those if you already missed out on them in the first place. The only two things with this box set is that, of course, you've got to make sure you get one that hasn't been dinged up, and you have to be careful with how tight the box set is around the contents. The other is, of course, that the trilogy book is a reduced, condensed version of the original 3 books, so you do lose out on 6 of the original essays from the first releases. That's the only thing you lose from the original extras. You still have the exact same disc with the exhaustive supplemental features packages, which really are among the greatest ever assembled for any physical media release. So this is a way to get the entirety of the original Arrow packages in a single box set volume, just losing out on some of the original book essays. If you'd like to know more about the releases themselves in terms of the individual films, their restorations, their transfers, the picture quality, the audio quality, comparisons to past releases, and the astounding supplemental features packages, I have done incredibly exhaustive reviews of each of these here on my channel, which will be linked in the description below, so please do check them out if you want to know more. If you have not gotten any version of the Arrow releases, then please stop whatever you are doing if you are at all remotely interested or are watching this video, and go get any iteration of them, because they are the definitive versions of the Dollars Trilogy, and nothing before this point comes anywhere near the level of quality that has been achieved with these. These really undo decades worth of preservation issues, a great deal of which most of us Leone fans had just resigned ourselves to never seeing a version without these particular problems. So these are really dream discs, and the new box set is a great way to get everything in one fell swoop. So as always, I hope my babblings about the works of Sergio Leone and their long history of physical media releases and long history of preservation and transfer problems has been at least somewhat fun and informative. please go and get a copy of whichever version of the Arrow releases you are interested in, whether it's the standard editions or the new trilogy box set version, because if you love these films and you don't have the Arrow releases in your collection, you're just not experiencing them properly. It's that simple. That is the level of work that has gone into these, and that's what makes them as important as the $200,000 in gold at Sat Hill Cemetery. So as always, please do keep supporting both studios and boutique labels by buying films on disc in order to help keep both physical media and film culture alive. And as always, thank you ever so much for watching.